Hi there, my name is Kay Moon, and I'm a twin flame channel and Western astrologer. And this is a video about the full moon in Scorpio taking place on May 16th, 2022, 12:12 a.m. If you happen to be on the eastern seaboard of the United States, please check a time zone converter for your local times. This video is for the Twin Flame Divine Counterpart Collective. You don't need to know the label of your connection to resonate and understand an initiation from love. So if you resonate with the content, I'm just going to ask that you give the video a thumbs up. And if you're new, please subscribe. Welcome. In this new full moon in Scorpio, in the primary lightworker energy update, I talked about how this full moon in Scorpio is demanding of us some new beginning energies, whether we're ready for it or not, because it's closing out some cycles in a very permanent way for many of us. Some things that, maybe we've been working on for a long time or working with others around for a long time, or things you may have been working in connection around for a long time. This is the moment in time where a new timeline thread begins to pop out and a new path begins to get explored. So I'd like to encourage you to have a listen to that, to fully understand the meaning of this full moon in Scorpio, because it is significant. This is a launch point for some very significant changes that we're going to talk about next year. But as a launch point for it, you can prepare yourself by understanding this energy and context, as opposed to, just kind of passively listening in. Now, when it comes to divine counterparts, I'll just quickly show you the full moon. There it is in Scorpio. Here's the sun there in Taurus. They're in opposition. So the overall energy has a lot to do with the completion of some very karmic cycles and karmic energy for ourselves, patterns that may not have really served us, things we've outgrown, these kind of things coming to completion, whether it be financially or in love. Now, when it comes to divine counterparts, we have Juno here at that 8th degree of Pisces. And Juno is the planetary energy that I read as the divine feminine. This divine feminine energy is in a square to a retrograde Mercury. And that's a funny message. Interesting. The message that's really coming through is in the divine feminine energy fields, things may not look like what they appear. That this could be a period of time where you're rethinking some of your decisions, rethinking some of the choices that you may have made in relationship, rethinking some of the things you may have said during this particular Mercury retrograde. And you may find in the world of connection that the people that you're connected to come forward for conversation about things that you've already talked about, but that need greater clarity, greater illumination. Or you may find in yourself that you need to clarify some things, to speak up. But it's important to know that with Mercury retrograde, all that needs to be said may not get said. All that needs to be shared may not be revealed. And so, even though it's a great time for a conversation, it's a great time for a conversation that may be a revisit. If you're looking for an opening for a new conversation, I'd wait until Mercury has completed the retrograde motion in another couple of weeks, and come out a shadow on top of it. Moved maybe into Cancer at this beginning stages. So, all of that to say, things just may, in the divine feminine energetic fields, things may not look on the outside the way they actually are on the inside. And it's just important to remember that, especially if you're making decisions, important decisions at this time, that it might be worth it if you recognize yourself to operate in the polarity of divine feminine energy. Especially, I know a lot of you don't do the polarics at the moment. Your path of study has you on an integrated path of divine feminine and masculine energy. So you don't identify as a divine feminine or a divine masculine. Instead, what you have going on is a recognizing of yourself as a divine being. But for those of you who path of study and leadership is requiring you to operate more in polarity energy at this time. Be careful with your words, is what I would say to divine feminine energies out here. There's some ways in which you could say some things that come Mercury direct, you may regret having said. Okay, moving on. We've got a Juno. She's also talking to this Pallas Uranus sort of conjunction. Juno is speaking to them both right here. And there's a bit of a protectedness about your divine path here, that even though it may be changing and shifting in ways that you didn't expect. Different timelines have opened up. Things you didn't see coming are now starting to play out. Things you thought would go X way are now going Y way. With Pallas in the mix and Uranus in the mix, Uranus being the original divine counterpart, Pallas being the energy of protection and divine feminine protection, no less. This combination is talking about your path being divinely protected, divinely guided. This combination is also talking about the capacity through feminine energy to manifest your highest possible timeline. Third dimension, Earth sign Taurus, is where Uranus and Pallas rest here. Taurus is feminine energy, and the divine feminine speaking via sextile to these two. Uranus represents change, growth, transformation, Pallas protection. That sextile is gift given through work put out. This is talking about if you're willing to lay down some manifestation energy for your highest possible outcome on the highest possible timeline for you at this time, and call that in. That is something, and take divinely inspired action on it, no less. And when you see signs that say move on a thing, to move on it, that's when you're going to start to see that you have been an active participant in a really beautiful next step for you. We've got divine feminine. She's sitting right next to Nessus there in that configuration, sitting next to Nessus. Nessus is an energy of feeling just a little bit OCD, a little bit overly attached, rumination, lots of thought, looping thoughts, kind of overthinking a thing. And when you've got Nessus and divine feminine sitting together in this way, plus a Mercury retrograde in the mix, this is really talking about, again, just be mindful with what you say. Because if there's over rumination of thoughts going on, two things are true. The best usage and leverage of this energy is going to be to leverage your intuition. If your mind is ruminating on something, there's something that your mind needs. There's some piece of missing information. There's something going on that needs to happen so that you can feel like you can release it, like you can let it go. So the best leverage of this is going to be utilizing your intuition to understand the things that don't make sense. Seek higher wisdom, speak to your guides, ask for dreams and signs to come forward to help guide you about what's happening in your world, and simultaneously to just be very mindful with your language. Because like I said, come Mercury direct, you said certain things without having a full picture during this period of time. Come Mercury direct, you may regret it. Okay, now Trine Lilith. Yeah, and she just exacerbates the situation because Lilith is like, you know what? I'm done. I'm blocking you. Get out of my life. That's Lilith energy with all of this. The best way I can put it is it's like, it's like divine feminine scorned kind of energy in certain ways. There's this vibration here of feeling a bit like taking the high road is completely blocking somebody out, when really taking the high road is coming to acceptance and terms with where things may stand in your connection. And then from there, having an open heart to what source wants to bring you as it reveals things step by step, and not presuming that you have all the information right at this moment to be able to take the next step. It's a patient energy that's really asked of here in our divine feminine energetic fields to work with this. It's a recognition for sure where there is pain, where there is missing information, where intuition is starting to fill in some blanks. There's a need to differentiate between intuition and fear for sure. But there's also this kind of also recognition of like, okay, it's very high priestess card energy. I need to just sit back and allow what's ready to be presented to be presented. I need to just sit back and let information come to me, not force the path open, but instead just be open to the highest possible outcome on the highest possible timeline. It's very feminine in the way that there's no action taking in this in divine feminine energy. There's earth energy, there's some air energy, there's water, lots of water energy, but there's zero fire aspects to the divine feminine at this time. So there's no need to act right now. This is a moment for reflection, which is a great gift because the opportunity for intuition to kind of 10x itself during this period of time is quite high, especially as Juno comes to speak to Neptune later on this year. For some of you, that is going to facilitate an amplification of intuition. For others of you, it'll be a different story. We'll talk about that then. All right, let's talk about divine masculine energy fields. We have Jupiter finally coming out of Pisces and landing at the 0 degree mark of Aries. And I love to see this. I am here for it. Jupiter and Pisces brought an energy at the start of the year to our divine masculine energy fields that was all about tapping into intuition, going with the flow. Could have brought a little bit of moodiness or depression if you're somebody with heavy water placements, but it could have, what it's also bringing forward now that it's moving into the second half of its journey in Aries, fire sign energy, is it's like, when they restore vintage cars from other eras, it's like the car is fully restored, the paint is done, all of the new stuff is ready to go. And the final piece was they just needed to put in like a new transmission so that when you put the key in the ignition, that car would turn on. That's what this is. This is okay. Now the car can turn on. Everything else had been in place, but now the car can go. Now I am so here for that energy. There's a new chapter in our divine masculine energy fields and a chance to step into this new chapter. We've got Jupiter speaking still. It's still a little too close to Mars and Neptune for my liking. There's still a little bit of the past lingering and dragging going on here. But, with Jupiter and Neptune and Mars coming together, this is a hopeful new beginning and the motivation to take action on it. There's a little bit of fire under the tushy to make something happen in divine masculine energy fields. So in your own life, where you may have felt like, your capacity to provide for yourself in certain ways or protect yourself in certain ways, where there has been an inability to do that, this Jupiter in Aries it's on the case. It's like, no, I got you. Don't worry. I will provide for you. I will protect you. I will get creative with you. Just tell me what you need and we will do it. Your internal divine masculine energies turning on. Jupiter being the first sign of, Aries, where Jupiter is sitting, being the first sign of the zodiac. We now have divine masculine energy having completed a 12-year cycle and moving into the very beginning of a brand new 12-year cycle. Beautiful energy. Like I said, it's very exciting. Still a little dust to shake off from some of the connection here to Mars and Neptune, but It's not going to slow Jupiter down for long. Jupiter's going to breeze into Aries and get really good and into it come June and July before retrograding back. And it's going to make such a huge difference to all of our energy fields to kind of see this divine spark of hope, faith, and optimism and investment in ourselves, Aries being the sign of ourself, have a transformative impact on every area of life that matters to us. Now, for some of you, I do see here, again, if you're exploring this in polaric energy, if you've been called to operate exclusively in divine masculine or exclusively in divine feminine energy, and this is how you're reading this energy, what you may find in divine masculine energy fields at this time is divine masculine energy having the beginning of a soulmate relationship or a karmic relationship, but maybe less so karmic, but a soulmate connection. Again, I illuminated a lot of this at the part 1 of this particular eclipse cycle. That was the Taurus new moon eclipse cycle. It was the last twin flame video I did. So if this is something you're experiencing, please go back and listen to that. It will give you full context and color. But yes, there is, for many divine masculine energies who are exploring polaric energy, there's new relationship energy here. With Chiron and Venus conjunct, this is the beginning of falling in love, of two becoming one, of realizing you are in love with someone and that what you're ready to do is to open up, take the next step, to step into it, have some ambition. You can really picture that person in your life and where you can go from here with them. And so that's one of the ways this union energy can play out. And so if you're on the other side of that as a counterpart and you're witnessing your counterpart open up a new romantic relationship with somebody who is not you, please understand that this is really kind of divinely designed for the growth and maturity of your counterpart. There's soul lessons in this that for whatever reason, you just weren't the appropriate counterpart teacher for it. And so to really get yourself to a place of understanding and acceptance that the necessity of this step is also for your benefit, not just theirs, that there's something in this for you too in the growth, that there's something in the way that this is serving not just the connection, but the mission of love here on earth. If you can get into that surrender around it, you're going to find it's a lot easier to come to terms with peace and acceptance about this transition here along the life path. Now, especially because all of this is going down in the sign of Aries, whoever has come in as an edifier, has come in as someone to build you up, to water you, someone who has come in to kind of lift you up, heal you, boost you, support you at a time when you really need it at coming into the very beginning, the nascency of a brand new 12-year cycle. Okay. And so it's a beautiful gifting, this energy. And for, like I mentioned in the last two, twin flame videos for each lunation leading up to this, there's been that energy that's showing up for divine feminine energy too. It's just not in this chart because her journey started earlier, but that energy has been here too if you're one of the people exploring polarities. And as I mentioned in the last video, this Uranus conjunct the North Node is going to bring about, especially because Mars is going to get into the mix, an initiation with masculine soulmate energy into the divine counterpart journey in the next, I'd say, about 60 or so days. So if you really want to understand the big picture, definitely have a listen to the content from the last two lunations. It'll help you understand how this works for both counterparts. Now, the one other way that I can see this energy playing out for twins who are in connection is that this really is the first 6 months of this year and the tail end of last year has been the beginning of you coming back together in some format of like really kind of beautiful spiritual recognition of each other as, the person you want to walk in this life with. And it's such a gifted, beautiful energy because it's been a slow roll. We had November, December, and January with the Venus retrograde, which may have brought the two of you back into one another's world or had the two of you rehash certain things from your own connection and given you the opportunity to step and look more deeply at the connection and what it's given you, what it's brought to you, the ways it's empowered you, and the fears that you may have had about the connection, and talk about those things. And then as we closed up that Venus retrograde cycle and came closer and closer into this, the last lunation, the solar eclipse with the new moon in Taurus, that you would have found that that might have been the beginning of like, wow, okay, now the connection is starting to become all that which it can be. And it could have been a very intense, very beautiful, very loving, rich, spiritual, soulful union energy period of time. And now that we have Chiron here with Venus, this could be a period of time where there's just deep recognition, deep alchemy of, just two becoming one, love energy, marriage energy. This is the commitment or the connection starting to anchor through the fifth and the fourth dimensions into the third dimension more fully, where there is an embodiment of the connection in union energy, in the spirit of the way you act and behave with one another, and a bit of mutual understanding that stabilizing the connection is a mutual goal between both people at this time. So I love to see it. Like I said, there's life-changing energy about this. I said that in the update for the Lightworker energy update. And so, this is the kind of energy and this is the kind of year where for some, the two of you are moving out. Maybe you've moved in together. Maybe you've gone from moving in together to getting engaged. Maybe you've gone from engagement to setting a marriage date, these kinds of things, this kind of advancement. But for many others, it could work in one of the other ways that I have mentioned. But yeah, it's beautiful. I love it. It's such great, it's positive, uplifting energy, even though there's a closing there. Now, for divine masculine energies, or if you are not exploring polaric energy in your connection, you really are being invited into integrating masculine and feminine for yourself. And both parts, really resonate for you. What we see going on here for the individual is a reinvestment in themselves. It's a recommitment to self-growth, your ambitions, a recommitment to your goals. And this is also bringing forward a recognition of the sacredness of your ambitions. I frequently have said, in my business prior to this, that ambition is that place where ego meets your soul and tells you how far you can really go in this lifetime. Our dreams are very sacred pieces of information to what we're meant to be doing here on this earth. So, where that passion has been guiding you, where you've been instructed and shown vision of soul mission and purpose here on the planet, this Jupiter in Aries is really going to, like I said, it's that transmission getting installed. So, when you put the key in the engine, things that may not have worked out before now in terms of reaching into those goals and dreams, they can actually work out now in a way that they've not been able to before. So if you want to have a look at this for you and your counterpart, you can catch me over at kmoonastro.com. I've got sessions available this week and next week. So we can look at how this plays out for you as part of the larger union window energy. And we can also have a look at, if you're really feeling called to look at mission and purpose for yourself, then let's have a look at that as well, because there's an energy here in the divine masculine energy field. For those of you who are exploring the union energy within self, there's an energy here of, it's go time, baby. It's time to double down. Your best investment is you, and it's time to really take that step with yourself. So it's a beautiful energy. All right. Trying to think, was there anything else? There was, but how does it fit in? I remember the message, but where planetarily did it fit? Ah, right. Okay. There are some of you who, as just as we opened this union window, you've moved into a period of time of separation. And that would have been during November, December, January, the Venus retrograde cycle. Or maybe just before or just after that, you would have moved into some sort of non-communication or breakdown in connection. When I look at this for you, because I've been hearing you come into session with me and tell me these stories of separation, and my counterpart is having such a hard time, or I'm having such a hard time with this. One of the things that I feel like it was important for me to relay is that this, in the connection, both counterparts have two very different jobs. My guides were saying to me ages ago that the construct or concept of divine feminine and divine masculine doesn't even come close to helping you understand the complexity and nature of what the two counterparts do here on earth. It's nice shorthand, but they're saying you have to remember it's only that. It's shorthand. It is not a true definition. And they said to take it deeper for the consciousness level that you're at, Kay, what we want you to understand is that there's an intuiting twin and a transmuting twin. And the intuiting twin's role has a lot to do with understanding the divine path. It's the path of seeing the light and understanding the trajectory and the direction, and really being kind of like a facilitator of the healing so that things can continue to grow and unfold. The transmuting twin is what you recognize as divine masculine, and their role is to step into some of these. And this is just the role for this moment in time on this timeline on planet Earth. They're saying their role is to step into some of the more challenging patterns around masculine energy that we have here on planet Earth that need to be healed and rectified so that they can leave a breadcrumb trail for other men to follow the way out. Now, these patterns can include all kinds of things, all kinds of dishonesty and infidelity, and proper use of masculine power over feminine receptivity and form, specifically talking about like rape and hurting women physically and or sexually. There are others that have stepped into family patterns of kind of emasculated male energy and need to restore the male template to their families. They've had emasculating mothers, and that's gone on for generations. There are others that have a lot of distortions around money and work, and equating money and work with self-value and self-worth. They're here to correct that. The only way to actually correct it is to then live it and then live their way out of it. And so that's what the transmuting twin does, is it transmutes these negative patterns here on earth. And that can take years of growth, years of work to recognize I'm not like other men and I need to actually do some other things. And so going back to the beginning of this union window, where I know a lot of you came into some separation energy, the message that came through that was important for you to understand is that if There will always be times on the journey where that light that the divine feminine energy carries, the intuiting twin of, I know the path, I see the way, this is what needs to be done. There are times when it's necessary for that light to be either the best way to put it is removed from the counterpart. And the way my guides laid it out to me was like this. And it was actually in a conversation with Ella of Return to One. We did a healing earlier this last week, and we're having this conversation. When you are in darkness, let's just say, you're outside and there's no light. For those of you who've ever been camping or in the wilderness, this will make a lot of sense to you. Or if you have like a backyard and you can go outside and there's no light pollution, there's no outside lights. When you bring a flashlight or a torch, it can create light blindness, and you cannot see the entirety of what you're dealing with that flashlight. And it can be helpful to turn the flashlight off so that your eyes can adjust with your night vision and you can be able to see what's around you with greater clarity. And so that was the message that had kind of come through, is that where there has been separation, it's because it is necessary for your person to not have your energy as light or torch at this time. There's necessity in the connection for them to adjust to their own night eyes in the darkness. Because when you have that flashlight, it's very easy to not be able to see the whole picture and then to trip over things repeatedly. Whereas if you have your night vision instead of a flashlight, you're able to, you can take in and survey the entirety of the environment and better understand which way to go. All right. So that was the message that came through with the purpose for some of the separation energy. So I hope that's helpful and encouraging to some of you, all in divine timing, divine sequence, and divine order. And if we can trust that and really, truly just trust the path of love, love wouldn't bring you this far to leave you. We'll be in good shape as we continue to move through the union window. All right, beloveds, I thank you so very much. It's a pleasure and a treat to do this for you at each lunation. I again implore you to go back and listen to the last several lunations, because they will provide greater context and insight to what we are dealing with here, because this is really more like a part 2 or a part 3 of a much bigger saga that we're all living through at this time. If you're new, once again, if you heard something that resonates, I encourage you to subscribe. That way you don't miss a single update. And if you need some support figuring out things in your connection, you can certainly book time with me this week and next week over at kmoonastro.com. Thanks again. Take great care and bye for now.